Today's lesson is called Huge Locust Outbreak Hits East Africa, Heads Beyond. Hello everyone, my name is Jeff.
My name is Roger, and today we're going to talk about bugs or insects, those creepy crawlies out there that a lot of us don't like. And you might think they're kind of small and can't really do us much harm, but if there are lots of them, if there are hundreds, thousands, millions, and billions of them, that could be a big problem. And indeed, there was a huge locust outbreak in East Africa earlier this year, and so we've got to watch out for them because I guess they're spreading beyond Africa.
Yeah, this outbreak, it hit East Africa, but yeah, it didn't stop there. It also went beyond this initial area, or we're saying here that it has headed beyond this area. Anyways, folks, with that, it is time for us to take a short break, but don't go away. When we come back, we'll be talking some more about the current scourge that is hitting East Africa and places beyond.
Huge locust outbreak hits East Africa, heads beyond. In February, giant swarms of desert locusts began destroying crops in East Africa, in the worst locust outbreak in 70 years. The region was already fighting widespread hunger following years of war and 3 years of drought. The insects initially spread to 7 African countries, with Ethiopia, Kenya, and Somalia hardest hit. By mid-month, the outbreak was also threatening South Asia, where serious crop losses were reported in parts of India.
大家好，标题中我们看到单字 outbreak， 这个字是名词，指疾病、战争等爆发、突然发生。例如 After the outbreak of the strange new disease, scientists tried to find a cure for it. 这种古怪的新疾病爆发后，科学家试图找出治疗的方法。或是 The outbreak of civil war in that country made many people become homeless overnight. 那个国家突然爆发内战，迫使许多人一夕之间无家可归。再来，我们看到名词 swarm， 意思是一大群昆虫，常写作 a swarm of 加名词，像是 I saw a swarm of mosquitoes in the bushes. 我看见草丛里有一大群蚊子。另外，这个字也可以当动词，指成群的移动、蜂拥、挤满。我们可以说Fans swarmed the pop star as he left his hotel. 那位流行明星离开饭店时，粉丝蜂拥而上。或是 The exhibition swarmed with visitors from overseas. 这场展览挤满了从海外来的游客。接着我们看到单字 initially， 这个字是副词，指最初、起初。举例来说 We initially thought there were 3 men in the boat, but it turned out there were close to 10. 我们起初以为船上只有3个人，但结果有将近10人。另外，这个字去掉字尾 ly 就成了形容词 initial， 指最初的、开始的。我们可以说 Tom's initial reaction to the news was becoming very angry. Tom 对那一则新闻最初的反应是变得非常生气。
Okay, so maybe you know what a locust is, maybe you don't. A locust is basically a kind of grasshopper, but it's kind of big and it lives in tropical areas for the most part, and it can fly pretty far, unlike regular grasshoppers. So again, it's related to grasshoppers, but of course, when you hear about locusts, they're always causing trouble, okay? It's always bad news. If you hear the word locust, oh no, there's another locust outbreak someplace where there are billions of them flying through the air and eating all the crops and causing trouble.
Yeah, locusts can be bad for that reason. Yeah, a couple of grasshoppers, no problem. Big deal. But if you have a huge swarm of millions of these big grasshoppers, they're flying all over the place, well, they're going to try to find something to eat. So these big swarms might descend on a field filled with crops, and, well, it won't take long for these millions and millions of insects to eat all of the food there. So yeah, locusts are bad. They will damage damage crops if they are in large enough populations or found in large enough populations to do so. And this is for real, everyone. When I was growing up, there was one summer when we had a big locust outbreak there in Florida. These grasshoppers were everywhere. There were so many that you couldn't get away from them and they couldn't get away from you. It was kind of amazing. Yes, there was a big outbreak that year of locusts in Florida, i.e., all of a sudden, they were everywhere. They spread everywhere very quickly. That's what you talk about when you're talking about an outbreak, a situation that gets out of hand and spreads to many places.
Okay, so again, we're talking about the outbreak of locusts in East Africa, which includes countries like Kenya and Somalia. Those are countries in East Africa. But in any case, this happened in February, and we had giant swarms of desert locusts, and they began destroying crops in East Africa, and that was the worst locust outbreak in 70 years. So if you talk about a large group of flying insects, like locusts or like bees, we call them swarms. A swarm of bees. We've got lots of measure words for groups of animals. I can give you a couple of examples, like a herd of cattle, a school of fish, a gaggle of geese. But here we've got swarms of locusts. Okay, large numbers of locusts. And they were causing trouble in East Africa. They were destroying crops, and that had not happened that badly in about 70 years.
There you go, yeah. I will say this, though. The word swarm sometimes has a negative connotation. No one thinks, hey, that's a beautiful swarm of bees. That usually does not happen. Further, if you were to use this particular word to refer to a group of humans descending on some particular area, that wouldn't have a positive connotation either. Yeah, this swarm of people, they're up to no good or something like that, or they're going to wreck some place because they're descending upon that place like a swarm of insects. Anyways, the region was already fighting widespread hunger following years of war and 3 years of drought, and then on top of all of these things, they also have the worst locust outbreak in 70 years. That's no good for East Africa. Now, more on the locusts. The insects initially spread to 7 African countries, with Ethiopia, Kenya, and Somalia the hardest hit, or they were hit hardest, I should say. By the way, it says here that they initially spread to these countries. That means they did so at the beginning or at first.
Yep, initially. Initially, I was going to go to Japan, but I ended up going to Taiwan instead. So here, in the beginning, they spread to 7 African countries. And we did mention some examples here. Ethiopia, Kenya, and Somalia. They were the hardest hit. That means they were the ones that received the most damage.
There you go. Lucky for us, though, lucky for all of us here in Asia, that locust outbreak, it stayed confined there in Africa. Yay, right? Not exactly. Get this, by mid-month, the outbreak was also threatening South Asia, where serious crop losses were reported in parts of India. So, were these swarms of locusts contained in Africa? Sadly, no. They made their way to South Asia, and yes, they are threatening India there. There's going to be some severe crop losses there in India.
Rice or whatever they grow there, the locusts are going in there and eating the plants, and that could result in starvation for humans. But we'll talk about this some more in the next part of our lesson. So let's move on now and talk about how fast they move.
Swarms of the destructive locusts can fly up to 150 kilometers per day and eat as much food in a day as 35,000 people. A single square kilometer can contain as many as 80 million insects. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization warned of a major hunger threat, prompted by fears that the insects' numbers, already in the hundreds of billions, could grow up to 400 times by June.
Locusts. There's not much that they do, but when they do it, boy, do they ever do it in big numbers. Yeah, locusts, they eat and they make other locusts. That's about all that they do. And in between those two things, they fly. Boy, can they move, these locusts. Yes, swarms of the destructive locusts can fly up to 150 kilometers per day and eat as much food in a day as 35,000 people. So there you go. They make locusts, they eat, and they fly. That's three things that they do, but mostly they make other locusts and eat. Boy, are they ever destructive in that way. If they were to descend on some crops there, some crops in a field, they could make that field fill with crops. They could make it disappear in no time. Why? Because they eat. Boy, do they ever eat. Yeah, one swarm of a destructive locust type can eat as much food in a day as 35,000 people just in one day. How about that? Boy, are they ever destructive, okay? Wherever they go, they leave destruction in their wake.
Yep, a forest fire can be destructive, and destructive, of course, is related to the word destruction, which is when a lot of things are damaged or completely destroyed, etc. So yes, indeed, these locusts can fly 150 kilometers per day. That's a long distance, and they can eat a lot of food, as much as 35,000 people could eat in a day, and a single square kilometer can contain as many as 80 million insects. That's a lot. My goodness, how could you possibly walk from home to school without running into hundreds, if not thousands, of locusts?
Anyways, let's hear from the UN. What do they think about all of this? Well, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization warned of a major hunger threat, prompted by fears that the insects' numbers, already in the hundreds of billions, could grow up to 400 times by June. So the UN is worried. What started as an East African problem is going to become much, much bigger. It's going to be an African and an Asian problem.
Yep, Africa and South Asia are the hardest hit by these destructive insects there. So yes, they could multiply their numbers up to 400 times by the month of June, which is now, so you might want to check the news and see just how many locusts there are. Hopefully they'll figure out a way to get rid of them, or maybe gather them and collect them and grind them up or something and use them as fertilizer, but hopefully this problem will go away eventually. Okay, that brings us to the end of the second part of our lesson. Let's move on now to the third part.
Initial efforts to control the insects were ineffective. Aerial spraying of pesticides is normally the best method, but the East African region lacked the needed resources. This outbreak occurred as a result of rising temperatures in the Indian Ocean, a change that led to heavy rains and fresh vegetation in the Arabian Peninsula, and this fueled the growth of desert locusts.
第三部分我们看到形容词 aerial 指空中的，由飞机进行的，空气中的。例如 The photographer used a plane to take aerial images of the city. 摄影师利用飞机拍那座城市的空拍照。另外这个字也可以当名词，意思是天线。举例来说 We can't listen to the radio on the car since our car aerial is broken. 我们无法在车上听广播，因为我们的汽车天线坏了。再来我们看到名词 pesticide 意思是农药杀虫剂，像是 The FDA tests food to see if the amount of pesticide residue is within accepted limits. 美国食品药品管理局检测食物，查看农药残留量是否在可接受范围内。或是 My mom uses pesticide to kill cockroaches. 我妈妈用杀虫剂杀蟑螂。接着我们看到一个单字 peninsula， 这个字是名词，意思是半岛。举例来说 The city of Singapore lies at the southern tip of the Malay Peninsula. 新加坡坐落在马来半岛的南端。最后我们看到动词 fuel 指刺激，使加剧，为点点点添加燃料，像是 The hit movie fueled interest in the book it was based on. 这部热门电影激起人们对其原著的兴趣。另外这个字也可以当名词，意思是燃料。例如My car ran out of fuel before I could reach the gas station. 在我抵达加油站以前，我的车子就没油了。
All right, folks, we're back. Let's go ahead and wrap up our lesson on locusts. Right now, the locusts, they are out of hand, okay? They're everywhere. The population size of these locusts that are moving from East Africa into South Asia, the numbers there are staggering. Yes, how many locusts are there? Already, the number is in the hundreds of billions.
Yeah, how could they count that many? I don't even know how many zeros that would be, but in any case here, initial efforts to control the insects were ineffective. Now, earlier in the lesson, we had the word initially, which means at the beginning. That's the adverb form, but here initial is the adjective form. So initially and initial. So initial efforts, things they tried to do at the beginning to control the insects, did not work. They were ineffective.
Which makes sense. There are billions of these things. What can you do? Well, aerial spraying of pesticides is normally the best method, but the East African region lacked the needed resources. So there you go. Let's say you do have a big locust swarm. Make sure you get your pesticides ready and make sure you drop those pesticides on these locusts from way up there in the sky. Yeah, aerial spraying. That means you spray from a high place up in the air down onto something below. Yeah, aerial spraying of pesticides, these poisons, let's say, that kill pests and stuff like that. Well, that's usually the method to keep these locust swarms under control, but this just couldn't work because they didn't have enough in terms of pesticides and resources and stuff like that in East Africa.
Yeah, they didn't have enough planes, they didn't have enough pilots, they didn't have enough pesticides, so they lacked all those things. They did not have those resources, so initial efforts to control the insects were ineffective. Now, this outbreak occurred as a result of rising temperatures in the Indian Ocean, a change that led to heavy rains and fresh vegetation in the Arabian Peninsula, and this fueled the growth of desert locusts. Okay, that's quite a long sentence, but let's explain it one word at a time here. This is an outbreak, and it happened because of rising temperatures in the Indian Ocean. And as you might have guessed, that's probably caused by climate change. So the Indian Ocean there, which is the ocean next to India there, the water there was warmer. So that somehow resulted in an increase in the number of locusts. And that was a change that led to heavy rains. Okay, so when the water's warmer, more water evaporates and falls back to the earth as rain. So they had heavy rains, and then as a result of that, they had fresh vegetation in the Arabian Peninsula. Vegetation, of course, just refers to plants. Of course, Taiwan is famous for its vegetation in the mountains. There are lots of trees growing all over the place here in Taiwan. And this was the Arabian Peninsula, which is where Saudi Arabia is, along with Yemen and Dubai and places like that. And that fueled the growth of desert locusts.
So before, there was just sand there, and that's that. Nothing for the locusts to eat. But yes, because of these rains, these heavy rains, all of a sudden there are plants, and the locusts, they have a fuel. Yes, this fresh vegetation, it fueled the growth of the desert locusts. Yeah, without this fresh vegetation, the locusts would have nothing to eat. They wouldn't be able to eat enough to make enough locusts to form a swarm, so there wouldn't have been a locust problem without this fresh vegetation, because this fresh vegetation kind of supplied these locusts with what they needed to become a swarm there in the Arabian Peninsula, and the rest is kind of history. By the way, a peninsula, that's a piece of land that's almost completely surrounded by water.
Like the Shandong Peninsula in China. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. It's time to listen to our Chinese teacher.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第3部分提到，从空中喷洒农药通常是控制沙漠蝗虫的最佳方法，不过东非地区缺乏需要的资源。那这篇文中它是用到 pesticide 这个字来表达农药或是杀虫剂。那我们来学习它的字根。好 ，P-E-S-T pest 它表示害虫或是有害的动物。那么字尾 C-I-D-E 它表示杀害或者是杀害者或是导致死亡的事物。那把它合在一起 pesticide 就是表达说杀掉害虫的东西，也就是杀虫剂咯，或是用来指除害的药物。那顺便补充几个有相同字尾的单字。好，第一个是 herbicide H-E-R-B-I-C-I-D-E 好，那它是由 herb H-E-R-B 表示香草、药草或是草本植物，然后去搭配 C-I-D-E 表示致死物、致命之物，那么合在一起 herbicide 就表示除草剂。好，那么第二个补充的是 homicide H-O-M-I-C-I-D-E 好，那它的字首 H-O-M-I 它是来自拉丁文的 home 表示人或是人类，那么 C-I-D-E 表示杀害，合在一起 homicide 就表示谋杀或是杀人。那么第三个补充的是 suicide S-U-I-C-I-D-E 好，这个字首 S-U-I 它表示 of oneself 表示自己的，那么 C-I-D-E 表示杀害，所以合在一起 suicide 就表示自杀。那么第四个补充的是 genocide G-E-N-O-C-I-D-E 好，它的字首 G-E-N-O 表示种族，那么 C-I-D-E 表示杀害，这样子合在一起同学们应该猜出来吧。 Genocide 表示种族灭绝或是大屠杀的意思。好，那么课文下一句提到说 This outbreak occurred as a result of rising temperatures in the Indian Ocean 这次的蝗灾起因于印度洋温度上升。好，句子里面用到名词 outbreak 它表示爆发、突然发生，常常会用来指疾病、战争等等的爆发。好，那补充一下，如果我们把 outbreak拆开来再交换位置变成片语动词 break out 它表示突然发生或是爆发，那这通常是用来指说这种不愉快的事情突然发生，像是可能突然失火啊、爆发战争、爆发争执、爆发流行病等等。举例来说A fight broke out between two of the players 有其中2名球员呢突然爆发了冲突。好，那么 break out 其实还有其他用法，像第一种它可以用来表达疹子啊、痘痘或是汗突然冒出来，那这时候它的主词通常会是人，我们会用人然后后面加 break out 再接介系词 in 再加症状，那这个症状常常是皮肤方面的症状，像你可以接 hives 荨麻疹、pimples 粉刺、a rash 疹子、a sweat 一身汗。举例来说 Nick broke out in hives after eating shrimp Nick 吃完虾子之后身上突然起了荨麻疹。好，那么第二个用法是用 break out 来表达逃脱越狱，后面常常会搭配介系词 of， 例如 Three prisoners attempted to break out of the jail 3名囚犯企图逃狱。好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Locust. Locusts travel together in large numbers and cause damage to crops. Outbreak. The flu outbreak at our university has led to some class cancellations. Swarm. If you ever encounter a swarm of bees, you should run. Initially. The child was initially afraid of the dog, but over time he has warmed up to it. Destructive. The destructive typhoon significantly damaged the houses on the island. Vegetation. Work crews trimmed the vegetation on the side of the road. Fuel. A love of travel fueled Eric to go on a tour around the world.
Discussion Starter starts now!
Okay, here's our discussion starter for today. Climate change is making natural disasters worse. Yes, that much is certain. What individual actions can we do to help fight climate change?
You know what? In my opinion, I think we can start by cutting down on waste. Don't waste water. Don't waste food. Those clothes that you bought, don't waste them by throwing them out before they're totally worn out. So there you go. Reduce, reuse, recycle. And you know what? Go ahead and plant a tree as well, okay? The earth will thank you.
Well, in my opinion, I think we can start by figuring out a way to use those locusts to our advantage. Earlier, I mentioned maybe grinding them up and using them as fertilizer, but I think they are also a great source of protein. So yeah, I think we need more protein in our diets and fewer carbohydrates.
Okay, everyone. With that, today's article is now complete. But, as always, we sure hope that you guys have enjoyed reading along with us. Anyways, I'm Jeff.
I am Roger.
See you next time.